That $700 tent you are eyeing right now, the one with the mountaineering rating and the aerospace-grade poles, it cannot keep you alive at 30 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Not without a sleeping bag that costs another $400. Not without the right pad, the right liner, the right technique. A man named Marcus figured that out the hard way one January in Minneapolis, standing in a hardware store parking lot with $32 in his pocket and a night of negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit ahead of him. He did not buy a tent, he bought foam, and when the temperature dropped and the wind hit and every other shelter on that street went dangerously cold, his little box stayed warm enough to save his life. Nobody believed what he built was possible until the physics explained exactly why it was. Because what Marcus understood, what every survival expert and 4,000 years of Arctic engineering already knew, is that warmth has never been about how much you spend. It has always been about how well you trap what your body already makes. Tonight, we are going to show you exactly how he did it and why the industry never wanted you to know. Picture Marcus on a Tuesday evening, late January, the kind of cold that makes your breath freeze before it leaves your face. He is 43 years old, sleeping rough for 2 years after a layoff turned into a cascade no safety net could catch. He knows this city the way people who live in it truly know it, which doorways channel the wind, which walls hold residual heat from the buildings behind them, which patches of concrete stay slightly warmer because of the steam pipes running underneath. He knows things about surviving cold that most people will never need to know because most people have never had to learn them. The forecast that night was brutal, negative 28 degrees Fahrenheit, dropping toward negative 32 degrees Fahrenheit with wind chill. The warming shelter 2 miles east was full. The other men on his block had a mix of gear, donated sleeping bags, a couple of cheap dome tents, a few layers of cardboard. Marcus had spent the previous week doing something different. He had been watching debris hut videos on a library computer, reading about quinzees, reading about snow caves. And then he had read something that stopped him completely cold. A tent, even a 4-season mountaineering tent worth $700, has essentially zero thermal insulation in its walls. Zero. The fabric stops wind, it does not stop heat loss. Your body is sitting inside a nylon bag, radiating warmth into the dark in every direction, and the tent is doing almost nothing to hold it in. So Marcus built something else. With $31.40, 2 sheets of 2-inch XPS foam board, 3 emergency Mylar blankets, a roll of duct tape, and a rectangle of clear plastic sheeting, he constructed a shelter the size of a coffin. Tight, intentionally tight, small enough that his body heat could fill every cubic inch of it. The men watching him work called it a joke. They called it a box. One of them said it looked like a casket. Marcus said nothing. He sealed the last seam with duct tape, slid inside, and pulled the flap closed. By morning, he was warm. The man in the dome tent 40 feet away was not. So what did Marcus understand that a $700 piece of gear did not? Before we get into the science, I want to ask you something. Have you ever spent serious money on outdoor gear, survival equipment, or cold weather products and had them fail you at exactly the wrong moment? Drop that in the comments right now, because what you are about to discover will completely change how you think about warmth, shelter, and why the most expensive option is almost never the most effective one. Let's look at what that $700 tent actually is. Pick up the spec sheet, read it carefully. 4-season rating, double-walled construction, geodesic dome, aerospace aluminum poles. The marketing language is extraordinary. You'd think this thing was engineered by NASA. Here's what it doesn't tell you. The outer fly is 20 denier ripstop nylon. The inner canopy is 15 denier nylon mesh. Nylon fabric has an R value, a measure of thermal resistance, of approximately zero point 0.1 per millimeter of thickness. The entire wall of a four-season tent, fly and inner combined, achieves somewhere between R 0.3 and R 0.5 total. That is less insulating than a single sheet of notebook paper. Architects require R19 in exterior walls and R38 in ceilings for homes in cold climates. Your premium mountaineering tent delivers roughly 1% of that. What a tent does well is block wind. Wind-driven convective heat loss is brutal, and a good tent wall stops it effectively. But convection is only one of 5 ways your body loses heat. It also loses heat through conduction, direct contact with cold ground, which at negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit can pull warmth from your body faster than any wind. It loses heat through radiation. Your body is constantly emitting invisible infrared energy in all directions, and nylon is essentially transparent to that radiation. It loses heat through evaporation, and it loses heat through respiration. A tent addresses exactly one of those 5 pathways. The other 4 are wide open. At negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, a well-tested 4-season tent raises the interior temperature by roughly 15 to 25 degrees above outside. That means you are sleeping in an environment between negative 5 and negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not survivable without an additional sleeping system rated to those temperatures, which means another $400 to $600 in gear. The tent is a shell. It was never designed to be anything more. The industry just never told you that plainly. Here's the part that should make you angry. The outdoor industry has known this for decades. They know that a tent provides negligible thermal insulation. They know that the actual warmth in your camping system comes from your sleeping bag and your sleeping pad, and that the tent is essentially a windbreak with a price tag attached to it. But windbreaks don't command $700 margins. Engineered survival systems do. So the language evolved. The specs got more impressive. The pole counts went up, the fabrics got technical names, and the fundamental truth that nylon fabric cannot insulate quietly disappeared from the conversation. If you have spent money on cold weather gear and still found yourself shivering at 3 in the morning, that is not your fault. You were not sold the complete picture. You were sold the most photogenic piece of a system, presented as if it were the whole system. The failure is not yours. The architecture of the sales pitch was designed to obscure what actually creates warmth. You were given broken instructions. The product was built for profit, not for your survival. If you're finding this valuable so far, go ahead and hit like, because this next part is where the real physics begins. Layer 1. The dead air principle. Marcus's foam board wasn't keeping him warm because foam is magical. It was keeping him warm because of something physicists call dead airspace. And understanding this principle is the entire secret of every shelter that has ever actually worked in extreme cold, from Inuit igloos to debris huts to his little $30 box. Heat moves through air by convection. Warm molecules rise, cool molecules sink, they circulate, and warmth transfers away from its source. But trap that air so it cannot move. Lock it inside a foam cell, inside a down cluster, inside a snow crystal, and it becomes one of the finest insulators on Earth. It literally cannot convect. The molecules try to move and the walls of their tiny prison stop them. Think of it like a crowded elevator where nobody can shift position, no circulation, no heat transfer, no loss. 2-inch XPS foam board, the rigid pink or blue kind sold in hardware stores for about $8 per sheet, traps dead air in millions of microscopic closed cells and achieves an R value of approximately 10 for 2 inches of thickness. That is a single sheet of foam delivering 20 times the thermal resistance of a $700 tent wall. Marcus used 2 full sheets, one forming the sides and top of his shelter, and one beneath him as a floor. His effective insulation envelope was R20 around his body and R10 beneath it. The tent nearby had an R.4 rating. Layer 2, your body is a furnace. A resting human body generates between 75 and 100 watts of heat continuously. Think about what that means. You are a furnace, not a large furnace, but a steady, consistent, reliable one, burning the equivalent of a standard light bulb every hour, all night long, whether you are awake or not. The only question is whether your shelter keeps that heat around you or whether it bleeds away into the darkness the moment it leaves your skin. Marcus's shelter was designed to capture every single watt of that output. The internal volume of his box was approximately 25 cubic feet, barely enough to lie flat with a few inches of clearance on each side and overhead. That sounds claustrophobic. It is, slightly. But here is what it also is: a space so small that one human body can heat it meaningfully. A standard tent has an interior volume of 40 to 90 cubic feet. Your body's 75 watts are trying to heat a space 3 to 4 times larger, while the walls bleed that warmth almost as fast as you produce it. In Marcus's box, the warmth had nowhere to go. It accumulated. It stacked. By 2 in the morning, the interior temperature was 37 degrees above the outside ambient. While others around him froze, he was sweating. Here's where it gets remarkable. Layer 3, the Mylar factor. Marcus lined the interior walls of his foam box with emergency Mylar blankets, 3 of them, totaling about $4.50. Most people think of Mylar blankets as those crinkly silver things handed out at the end of marathons. They assume they are a gimmick. They are not a gimmick. They are one of the most effective thermal tools ever devised per dollar spent. Every warm object, including your body, constantly emits infrared radiation. Invisible heat energy radiating outward in every direction. In an ordinary shelter, that radiant energy passes through the walls and disappears into the cold night. Mylar reflects 90 to 97% of infrared radiation back toward its source. The silver surface essentially bounces your own heat back at you. Think of it like standing in front of a mirror that reflects warmth instead of light. Every time heat tries to escape, the Mylar says no, it goes back. That reflection, combined with R20 foam blocking conductive loss, created an insulation system that was, in purely thermal terms, superior to anything a $700 tent can achieve, and it cost $11. Layer 4, the ground is trying to kill you. Cold weather survival instructors repeat this like a mantra. The ground will steal your warmth faster than the air ever could. Most people understand that cold air is dangerous. Almost nobody adequately accounts for conductive heat loss through ground contact, and this omission has killed people. Concrete and frozen soil are extraordinary thermal conductors. Your body, pressed against them through a nylon tent floor, is sitting on a heat sink the size of a continent. The cold does not radiate upward, it pulls. Your warmth drains down into the earth like water through a drain. Marcus placed a full 2-inch foam sheet beneath his sleeping surface before he lay down. That single decision, a $7 piece of foam, insulated him from ground conduction more effectively than most sleeping pads sold for $60 to $80, which typically achieve R values between 2 and 4. His foam floor was R10. Survival instructors have documented that ground insulation can account for as much as 50 to 80% of a shelter's total thermal performance in freezing conditions. The foam beneath Marcus was arguably the most important $7 he spent. It is the one thing almost nobody thinks about when they are standing in an outdoor gear store. Layer 5, 4,000 years of proof. Marcus didn't invent any of this. He rediscovered it. Every principle his $30 shelter employed had been refined and perfected over thousands of years by the Inuit people of the Arctic, using nothing but snow. A properly constructed igloo, built from blocks of compacted snow costing $0 in materials, can maintain interior temperatures of 19 to 61 degrees Fahrenheit when it is negative 49 degrees Fahrenheit outside. 110 degrees of thermal differential. From body heat and a small oil lamp, using snow, the physics are identical to Marcus's box. Small interior volume to maximize the effect of human heat output, walls providing significant R value through trapped air locked in snow crystals, dome geometry minimizing the ratio of surface area to interior volume, a cold trap entrance tunnel that uses the rising nature of warm air to prevent it from escaping, and elevated sleeping platforms positioning occupants in the warmest air layer near the ceiling. Every element is a deliberate thermal engineering decision. Every element Marcus replicated for $31. The Athabascan people of interior Alaska built quinzees, shelters mounded from loose snow, that maintain roughly 32 degrees inside when outside temperatures fall to -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Forest peoples of the subarctic built debris huts packed with feet of dry leaves, achieving comparable thermal performance with zero cost and zero manufactured materials. Every one of these cultures independently arrived at the same physical truth. What creates warmth is insulation, small volume, and radiant containment. Not price, not brand names, not aerospace poles. In a controlled field test in Michigan's Upper Peninsula on a 9-degree Fahrenheit night, a snow igloo produced an interior of 37 degrees Fahrenheit, while a mountaineering tent managed 28 degrees Fahrenheit. The structure, built on ancient principles, outperformed the modern manufactured product. It was not close, so why don't we build this way anymore? Why did the knowledge of how to create genuinely warm shelter at minimal cost get displaced by an industry selling overpriced nylon shells? 3 reasons. It is always the same 3 reasons: speed, cost, and the technology shift. Speed means traditional cold weather shelters take time to build correctly. A quinzea requires 2 to 3 hours. A debris hut takes half a day. An igloo requires practice skill. The outdoor industry sells you something you can pitch in 15 minutes. Time saved, effectiveness surrendered. Cost means building a shelter that actually insulates, requires either natural materials in abundance or engineered insulation, neither of which generates ongoing premium revenue. Foam, mylar, and tape are hardware store commodities with thin margins and no brand prestige. Nobody builds a lifestyle brand around the physics of dead air. And the technology shift happened when synthetic fabrics became cheap in the 1960s and 70s. The outdoor industry built an entire aesthetic around lightweight, packable nylon. It looked technical, it photographed magnificently, and it created a visual language of adventure and preparedness that sold tens of millions of units. The fact that nylon cannot insulate was never the point. The point was the story. The hidden cost you are paying now is this: people enter serious cold placing trust in equipment that was never designed for the thermal demands they are facing. They spend thousands of dollars building gear systems that address one of 5 heat loss pathways. And when they get cold, when the system fails, they assume they made a mistake. They didn't. The product made the mistake. The marketing made the mistake. They just paid for it with their comfort, and sometimes with more than that. Here is what you can actually do with this. 3 options, from easiest to most hands-on, and every one of them works. Option 1, the immediate fix. If you already own a tent and you sleep in cold weather, go buy a closed-cell foam sleeping pad and a mylar emergency blanket at any hardware or outdoor store. Total cost under $20. Place the foam pad beneath your sleeping bag. Open the mylar blanket and drape it across the interior ceiling of your tent, shiny side facing down toward you, secured with a few strips of tape. You have just added radiant reflection overhead and full ground insulation below. This single modification, costing less than $20, will raise your perceived warmth inside that tent by 10 to 20 degrees, more than any tent upgrade at any price ever could. Option 2, the Marcus method. Build a genuine survival shelter from hardware store materials for under $40. You need 2 sheets of 2-inch XPS foam board, the rigid pink or blue kind, not the soft white beadboard, 2 emergency mylar blankets, 1 roll of duct tape, and a length of clear plastic sheeting. Cut the foam to form 4 walls, a floor, and a lid that fits your body with 4 to 6 inches of clearance on all sides. Line every interior surface with mylar, silver side facing inward. Tape every exterior seam airtight. Make the entrance flap overlap itself and stay shut under your body weight when you are inside. Keep the volume minimal. You are not building a cabin. You are building a thermal envelope around a single human body. That is the entire design. No lab, no factory, no subscription, no $400 sleeping bag required. Option 3, if you do nothing else, at least test what your current shelter actually delivers thermally. Take a thermometer inside your tent when the temperature drops below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Leave it for 30 minutes while you are inside. If the interior is less than 15 degrees warmer than outside, your shelter is providing almost no thermal benefit beyond wind protection. That knowledge alone may protect your life one day because you will know what you are actually trusting and you will know what to add. Knowing what you have is always safer than trusting what you were sold. Marcus was not primitive. He was not desperate in the way people like to imagine when they look past someone sleeping on a street. He was a thermal engineer with $31, and he built the most effective shelter on his block that night because he was the only one who stopped trusting the price tag and started trusting the physics. The knowledge that keeps you warm was never lost. It was just buried under $1 billion of marketing. We are digging up the survival science, the old craft knowledge, and the ignored physics that the modern industry shelved when it stopped being profitable. If this changed how you see cold weather survival, subscribe, because there is much more coming. And drop a comment telling us what you want us to investigate next. Sleeping systems, emergency water, off-grid food preservation, fire starting. You tell us. We'll dig it up.